Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Literature with Daniel. Today, I am now on to Canto 5 of Dantes Inferno. Last episode, we left Limbo, that place of the virtuous pagans, and now we're actually going into Hell proper, or the place where real punishment begins. The first thing that Dante realizes as he enters this second circle is that there's a monster in front of him. What a way to start a chapter. he meets a monster called Minos. This monster, or Minos, as we should call him, has a really long tail. And he's the guy who judges where a soul should go to on the level of what they've done on Earth, like the bad they've done. And so, if he wraps around his tail around himself 3 times, that means you go to the third circle of hell, which is the gluttons. And if he wraps his tail around himself 9 times, you go to the treacherous, or the cold lake, the frozen well, where the devil is. You don't want to go there. But anyway, Minos is here. There is a reason why, well, I think anyway, many people believe there's a reason why Dante chose Minos. Minos is the name of the king of Crete in Greek mythology. His wife gave birth to the Minotaur. He also was such a wise king that when he died, he was then made, I believe by Hades or Zeus or whatever, he was made as a judge for the dead, so that anyone who comes up to him, he judges them because he's so wise or whatever, and then he sends them off to whatever they're going to go to, punishment or whatnot. That's a really good comparison. Though in the mythology, Minos is a human. In this poetry, he is a monster. Dante nor Virgil gets judged by him. They just kind of walk right past. Because 1, Virgil is already assigned Limbo, so he doesn't need to be judged again. 2, Dante is not dead, so the laws of judgment do not yet happen to him. Anyway, that doesn't stop Minos from getting a bit upset, because not once has anyone been able to get past his judgment. Anyway, they leave Minos behind. Actually, there is one thing you should know. Minos tells Dante to be careful where he goes in hell, because everything's treacherous. Everyone lies. Like, hell is not a good place. He tries to warn Dante, but then Virgil comes up and he says, "This is none of your business." Like, don't talk to Dante. He's a living thing. You're just a spirit. Shut up. That actually does shut Minos up. And they just leave him behind to do whatever his work is to do. When they leave Minos and they actually get deeper into the second circle, Dante actually finally hears the anguished cries of all the sinners. It's possibly 10 times worse than when he first heard it when he was just entering hell. For whatever reason, he did not write that he swooned again. I guess he got a bit tougher skin the first time he heard all the cries. So the second circle is the circle of the carnal, those who betrayed reason to their passions, appetites, one of the 2 words you can use. And here, as you can see in the picture, they're buffeted, or it's a storm, or think of a tornado, but the tornado is full of souls. Whenever I say soul, just think of a person. Souls that are just swirling around in a tornado, and they're getting smashed into rocks. They're not getting decapitated. That's a future punishment that we will talk about, but it's not in Canto 5. They're not getting decapitated, they're just getting smashed about because that's what passion does to you. In real life, you're blown about by your passions. There's no reason. You're just getting smashed into everything. Here, Dante and Virgil are looking at this, and then Virgil points out a couple interesting characters. The first person he points out is Dido, the Queen of Carnage. She appears in the in the poem or epic, the Aeneid, written by Virgil. And Dante tries to get her to talk, but she doesn't say anything. She just goes away from him. Much to Dante's disappointment, but anyway, you can find out her entire story if you read the Aeneid. Long story short, because Aeneas left to go found Rome, she was so heartbroken that she decided to kill herself on a burning pyre. Makes no sense. Also, another thing about this, if she killed herself, according to what Virgil said, she should be in the Wood of the Suicides a couple cantos later. She shouldn't be here. But apparently people have thought this over and they're like, well, Dante said anyone who did something out of love, like an excess of love, ends up here for the wrong reasons. Like an excess of love for the wrong reasons towards something, they end up in the second circle. So technically Dido is here, but more logically she should be somewhere else. Then you have Cleopatra. She basically drove multiple men mad because of her beauty. I forgot how she died, but she did die somehow, not naturally, not by old age. But she did not kill herself. Then you have Helen. She's a woman in the Iliad. In the Iliad, who is she was the wife of a king. I forgot the king's name. She's the wife of a king, and then Paris comes over, and he basically takes her, kidnaps her. Everyone thought it was a kidnapping, and then takes her back to Troy, which then starts a 10-year war over one woman. Achilles gets involved and whatnot. Helen, she's here because she just kind of went gladly with Paris, and that's seen as an act of infidelity toward her husband, so that's why she's here, because of her passions, whatnot. And then you have Achilles, as I mentioned before. He's also in this circle. He's here because he promised Paris that if he married a woman of Troy, he wouldn't fight anymore. And then it turned out that the marriage was actually a plot to try to kill him by Paris, and then that didn't work out well. By the way, that is a legend that Dante's basing this off of. That's what his excuse for putting Achilles in the circle. Achilles abandoned his country for his passion to marry a woman. That's why he's here. Paris is here for an obvious reason. He stole someone's wife. There's not really much that you can say for him. After these fictional characters, obviously, are told, Dante sees two individuals. These two are Paolo and Francesca. Paolo, his brother, married Francesca, but then, I don't know, there's like many stories of how this happened, but they're basically all the same thing. Paolo and Francesca have an affair, and then Paolo's brother comes up, and he finds out, and then he just kills them both. Very interesting. And it all started because they read a book about Sir Lancelot. No idea how or why, but apparently that it is. That's what Canto 5 kind of talks about. The Dante calls upon them to tell their story, and because it's the will of God, or whatever, or because Dante says so, really, because he's the author, they come over and they have to stop their punishment for just a little bit to tell him their story. That's what they tell him. What I just told you. And then, by the way, Francisca's the only one telling the story. Paolo is just sitting there crying. And because they're together, it actually increases their punishment. Well, their pain, anyway. Also, Francisca tries to bring Virgil into this by saying that Virgil knows too well of what they've done wrong. That's not... I personally don't like that because they're trying to bring Virgil in, even though Virgil isn't affiliated with them, didn't even know they existed, and yet they're trying to bring him into this, and it's just... wow. And as she finishes the story of how then they were both killed, she states that the guy who killed them, Apollo's brother, will go to the ninth circle of hell for killing guests, killing kin, like Cain did. But at the same time, that doesn't, I don't know. It's like she's trying to condemn someone trying to condemn someone that she cannot condemn unless the guy, like, confesses and, like, turns his ways or whatever. After he hears this story, Dante, he swoons. I quote, "By such a swoon as death is, and I fell, as a corpse might fall to the dead floor of hell." End quote. He he passes out after hearing this story of two sinners. And they're there because it's just that they should be there, even though they blame God for what happened. They're like, "Oh, we only did this because of love." That wasn't love. But that's the end of Canto 5. Definitely getting more interesting as we go along deeper and deeper into the circles. Next episode will be about the gluttons of the third circle of hell. Thank you for watching this episode, and have a good day.